Gecko is in Townsville, Australia, being pulled by rope over to the travel lift for her haul out. If you watched the last episode, you'll remember that the engine stopped spitting out cooling water about 20 minutes before we got into the dock, and we didn't really have a choice but to keep going, so I didn't want to turn the engine on again, but the guys said that no problem, they could just pull Gecko over with ropes. The purpose for the haul out, twofold. One, to redo the bottom paint, but I also wanted to drop the rudder and replace the bushings. It's a transom hung rudder and it sits on 2 pins, and the bushings are getting worn down, so the rudder makes this horrible knocking sound, which probably isn't good for it. So that's the big job that we have to do during this haul out. We went into it pretty optimistic about the amount of time that it would take, but as most haul outs go, we ran into a lot of problems. Just a quick aside before I continue with the episode. In the first week of April, I'm going to be captaining a boat for part of the Odyssey Sailing Festival, and you guys have the opportunity to come sail with me. So if you want to sign up for a cabin on the boat that I'm captaining, follow the link in the description below to check out the Odyssey Sailing Festival and come sail with me, or a bunch of other really awesome captains who are going to be joining it. Okay, on with the episode. So we're hauled out, we're on the jack stands, we've got like the Mercedes-Benz of ladders. Whoa, I'm still in super view. Now we're just sort of tidying away. Dan's making lunch, and I'm gonna check the impeller because that's what we think happened to the engine. Anyway, that's the next thing in line to check. You go through hull, sea strainer, and then the next thing it does is the impeller. So they said it probably just exploded. So the things to watch out for are making sure that we have all the impeller bits.
Rebuild the impeller. If you blow an impeller, put it back together. When you take it out, make sure you rebuild it so you have all the pieces, and if you're missing the pieces, don't start your engine. Go find them.
Yeah, so that's really solid advice. And we can take all of these junctions. I mean, it looks like it's leaking anyway. Look at it, it's all corroded. It's still so hot. Fuck, I'm sorry, girl. The red bastard. So I'm just gonna turn off the seacock, and take this off and see what it looks like. All right, it's the moment of truth. The engine is still so hot and it's been off for an hour, over an hour. Come on. Come on. Oh, there we go. It's not the impeller.
Okay.
So I guess the next thing is to take it apart and see where there must be a blockage in the line somewhere. Since it's not the impeller that's the problem, while Dan's making lunch, I'm just kind of going through the line starting at the sea strainer. I tested the foot pump when we were motoring, and the foot pump pumped water, so we know it's not the through hull. So the way that I'm testing this first bit, this line, it runs from the engine through to the sea strainer. So I'm just gonna blow into it, and if the sea strainer bubbles, I just took the lid off, then we know that this line is clear. Alright, so this line is clear. I'm gonna leave it disconnected though, because we're probably gonna end up taking off the impeller pump at some point. And because we're on the hard, we don't have to worry about water coming in through any open pipes. I'm gonna close the sea strainer though, because that does have water in it. So lunch is ready. Okay, lunch is ready, so we pause for now and pick this up later. I'm also gonna text my brother and ask him what he would do, because he is engine genius and knows way more about everything than I do. So the first thing we're gonna do on the hard is to drop the rudder so that we can get behind it and paint and hopefully replace the bushings. So the first thing we have to do for that is to get the solar panel off, because the solar panel is attached to the wind vane, and we're gonna be replacing it anyway. Once we get our new 100-watt panels, I'm just gonna take one of these 50 watters and stick it back there, because they're basically the same dimensions, and that guy's super old. So we're just gonna take it off completely. I'm worried about galvanic corrosion because it's stainless hardware on aluminum and it's been there for 5 years. So Dan just squirted it with a bunch of PB Blasta, my favorite product ever. And we're gonna let it sit for a bit and then take it off and get started on removing the wind vane, which is gonna be a bit of a logistical hassle, but we have this sweet ladder, so it should be good. Solar panel is off. So much more space without it. So the plan is that I'm gonna put a halyard here, and then I'm having the guys, this is my master plan. Work, puppets, work. I'm gonna have them put rolling hitches around each of these posts and tie those to the back of the wind vane. That'll kind of hold it away from the boat. I attached a halyard to the top of the wind vane and took tension off of it. Then the guys undid the bolts and I slowly lowered it to the ground. It's a light piece of gear, so it was easy to maneuver. The main thing was that it's delicate and we didn't want to hurt it. Hey, we've got Andy. There's a big stainless plate on the bottom between the skeg and the rudder that holds the rudder on, and it has 2 bolts with Allen key fittings. And then on the top, we've undone the top bit. Look at this. Look at this. This is bad. This is all fiberglass. Anyway, this is where the tiller connects on. That's the tiller. Then that metal thing you see there is the plate that goes on top of the tiller. So those screw holes in the side screw into the side of the rudder here. And then the tiller slides into that plate and it has these 2 screw holes. So these are all pretty destroyed, so I'm gonna epoxy fill them with an epoxy glue. Do it a couple times, clean them out, probably drill them out first to get them nice and clean. Fill them, fill those, and then re-drill it just to make it a nicer connection. And like, this is all eaten, so I'm just gonna do some repairs on this whole thing. This is the bushing that I need to replace.
The problem is, these bolts, whatever they're connected to, are spinning.
Oh.
So the captive nuts, whatever's in there.
Yeah, they're free spinning. This is just free spinning in here, so we're gonna have to drill it out. Andy's gonna go get his nice bits for
and I'll
that.
bring my light too.
And his work light, so it's gonna be a late one. But this plate is gonna have to be replaced because it is simply porous. Thank God we have Andy, that's all I can say, because without him I would be majorly stressing. So it's really nice. Got a whole support team this time. Every other holiday it's just little me trying to do everything myself. Now I have this team of people helping me. So nice. And he just gave us a haul out gift, and it is brush flares. Before this I had some expired ones from 2012 that some friends of mine gave me because they were getting new ones because theirs were expired, and like assorted ones that were all very expired. So for the first time, Gecko has up-to-date flares. What up? Dan's gone off with Andy to get the proper bits for drilling stainless, and I'm just cleaning up the tools and blocking the rudder up so that when it does get drilled out, it doesn't fall unexpectedly. So there's a pile of blocks over here, conveniently close to my boat, and I've just grabbed a selection, so I'm just gonna block them up right under this so that it stays nice and snug. I'm just so happy. I don't know, it feels good. Dan and I just spent a month sitting in the marina working every day on like little tasks that are all the little ones that I've been putting off for ages. Every day we'll do 5 or 6 jobs each that are just small things, or start jobs, or drive around and do errands, and it's just kind of started to wear on both of us a little bit. So being hauled out and having these huge projects to sink our teeth into feels really good, to just be like, all right, we have to drop the rudder, and here's the problems that evolve while we're doing it, and oh yeah, okay, we need to sand the entire bottom, and that sucks, but that's just a big job. Andy's been amazing, and it's just amazing to have help in a haul out because I've never had that before, and it feels incredible. I'm already so much less stressed. I'm just excited, and it's fun to have that support. There she is. There's a tiny gap between here, but I think it's okay. So despite Andy's best efforts, it turns out that lying on your back in the middle of the night trying to drill out this thick piece of stainless bolt upside down isn't actually the easiest thing to do. So we're moving on to phase 2 of the plan, which is to drill access holes in the skeg so that we can get a wrench on those nuts that are free spinning and actually just unwind the bolts themselves. I've been talking to my dad, and he's the one who suggested this process, but I just need to double check with him before we go ahead and do that, to make sure that I'm not doing something insane, because drilling holes in your boat never feels good. And one more sidebar, why not just remove the rudder from the top, you might ask? Take off the backstay, take that top plate off, and then you're not drilling holes in your boat. Well, once I inspected that plate at the bottom and saw how many holes were in it, like I could stick the little tiny Allen key in it about that far. So that plate has to be replaced, and the only way to get it off is to drill holes in the skeg to get something on those nuts to unwind it. And so taking it off from the top wouldn't fix that problem, because we still have to get that bottom plate off somehow. My dad got back to our email super fast, and this is what he said. He was like, yeah, you're gonna have to cut into the skeg. And then he goes, make sure it's 3/16 stainless, because that's the best for under the water line. This is a critical component. Do it right so you don't have to worry about it in a storm. In parentheses, smiley face, the words. Start about 30 or 40 mils up from the bottom plate for the first hole. Oh, do you mind grabbing a tape measure? Yeah. Then go in at least 25 mil or so. If you keep hitting solid material, go up another 12 mil, etc. So basically we're sounding the rudder to figure out where the bottom fiberglassy bit ends and the foamy bit starts. These cracks like.
Okay, so we measured up where the bolts go through underneath to then figure out 50 mil up for our first drill. And what we realized is, in line with the bolts underneath, there are actually these cracks. 1, 2, 3, 4, either side of exactly where the bolts are. So this does seem like something, if we hadn't have found it now,
it would have made itself known.
It would have made itself known. Holly's putting a drill into her boat.
Whoa!
Wow.
Alright.
So we think we might have a bit of rot in there as it's pissing water. We're draining it. I don't know if the Pogo can catch this, but that is just, it's having a good long wee. I think this needed doing, Doris. It's still going.
Yeah.
Drink it. What ocean is that?
The skeg is a hollow fiberglass shell, and presumably the nuts are sitting on top of the thickness of the bottom bit of fiberglass. So what I'm trying to do with these sounding holes is figure out the exact level that the nuts are sitting at, so that we can drill the hole in the right place. So we're going to find the center of the bolt and go up to the 20 mil mark, drill a little hole in here. If we hit the bolt, drill a bigger hole to make a place that we can start to look in and see, because we're basically trying to figure out what's in here while doing the smallest holes possible. Bolts in here, I took a picture of it with my phone. It is in fact spinning freely. We've widened out the hole just enough to get a wrench in. To cut the holes in the skeg, we're using a diamond drill bit. It's just one that we already had, which is why we're using it. But it's a 15 mil one, and actually pretty perfect for the job. They're cool because their edge doesn't really get dulled very easily. So you start the drill before you put it in contact with the skeg, and you start at a 45-degree angle just to get the initial bite in, otherwise it just skids all over the place. And then once it's bit in a bit, you straighten it out and just drill through and get the hole. We're trying to go as small as possible, so this one's perfect.
Here we go. Holly working the magic, just slowly running water over it.
And now we're gonna put a wrench on this nut and then turn on the bottom and see what happens. It looks like, now that the hole is bigger, there's some sort of a washer on it. It looks like a lock washer from my perspective. You can't see that at all, which would make sense. Alright, so we've got the wrench in the hole this way on top of the nut. Dan's hammering this hex key in because we started drilling it out.
You holding it?
Yesterday, yep.
It just sort of pulled out at the end. It's our bite to grip on.
So now we have, in this hole, we have 2 washers and a nut. So I'm going in with my dentist's tools to the tiny hole, and I'm going to try to take them out really carefully. Now this also means that we only have 1 bolt holding the rudder on still. I wish we could get this wood under it better. I just got the nut out, and now I'm going in again with my little tools. Got the bottom washer, now I just need the lock.
Careful not to cut the tumour.
I do feel like a surgeon. Where did the lock washer? Oh, there's another one.
I think you just got the lock washer.
Is that the lock?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the lock washer, just a big one. And this is the one that is that seriously all that's
all it
holding?
is.
That is so scary. I guess it's just through fiberglass.
The fiberglass is set to hold.
All right, so we've got the bottom plate off. This is what it looks like. This is the underneath. We have washer, we have bushing. Now we're just gonna take the rudder off, so it's gonna pull down and out. The rudder is a fiberglass shell around a foam core, so it's pretty light and easy to handle. All right, this is Gecko minus her rudder. Look at all of this growth. That's wild. This is where the deck scuppers come out. This is where the cockpit drains used to come out to. And then I put in these through hulls, and now this is where the bilge pump comes out.
The what?
Bilge pump?
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Here's the rudder. Just a little side note from the editing booth. This haul out included a ton of projects, and I've chosen to organize them by project instead of by timeline, so you're gonna see a lot of stuff happen, like the bottom magically has fared and painted itself, which you will see in upcoming episodes, but I thought it would be nicer to see each project start to finish, so that's what's happening. Alright, the time has come to put the rudder back on the boat. We've got primer and 3 coats of anti-foul on the rudder and the skeg. We've specifically been rushing this job so that we can get it back together, because once it's on I can't paint between here and here. So first we're going to do a dry fit just to make sure that everything fits really snug, and to see if we need to shim it, make any more like really thin plastic bushings. Kind of annoying, but it's the right way to do it. We went to a lot of effort to get this thing off, so we're just going to put it on, screw it all together and see how it goes. Alright, we've got the rudder dry fit, and it's really good that we did, because the bushings that I have are just less than 1 millimeter too wide, but we put it on and the rudder still knocks around. So I asked the engineers at Rosshaven, and they said because it's about to be a long weekend and we don't have time to get the bushings remade before the boat launches, even though we have 5 days because everything will be closed. So they told us to get these sleeves. It's a shaft repair sleeve, it says. We're going to sort of use them for something else. So I have a sleeve and I have Loctite. And basically what I'm doing is so that because the bushing is too big, this is the pin that I'm trying to get it on. I'm going to bulk out the pin. So this is what this sleeve looks like. It's super thin and it fits really nicely inside of this, pretty much exactly perfectly. But I'm going to use the Loctite. It's 609 and I'm going to Loctite this onto here. It's the perfect fit. And then this will basically bulk out the pin by enough that it'll fit snugly in the bushing and we won't get the locking noise. We're gonna Sikaflex. This is the new plate that we've got. We have nylocks and lock washers because we're going totally overkill. The old system of holding the plate on had a regular nut, a lock washer, and then another washer that was barely bigger than the lock washer. But we chose to go overkill and use lock washers and nylocks because why not? And then we also bought big old fender washers to throw in there just to distribute the weight a little bit more evenly. We're gonna Sikaflex this plate on, and this is all that holds the rudder on. So right now we have it shimmed up on blocks, and it just sits in like that, and that's all that's holding it in. So we'll drop it down and put the sleeves on the top and the bottom, and then put it back up. So right now it's just held on by the top bit here, and the blocks there.
Did we acetone already?
Only the top bits.
Okay, but you got all the acetone stuff
Yeah.
up there? Sweet.
It's all prepped, dried.
See, it's perfect.
This one doesn't fit as well on the top.
Give us that box.
Could I have the hammer down?
Oh yeah.
Can we just pull it back a hair? Yeah, there we go. That fits like a glove.
Yeah?
Yeah, alright, let's get this back lined up.
Okay, you want to lift the nozzle?
Yeah. Nice.
Nice work, Andy.
Beautiful.
The muscle. We called
it
in the muscle. Okay, we are now prepping the bottom. So I'm just gonna acetone the plate and the bottom pin, and then Loctite on the bottom, same deal. It fits in so well, it's amazing. Okay, so we have the sleeve Loctited on. This is the bearing, and then we're gonna do bushing. And now we're ready to get this on. So we've got everything lined up. We're using nylocks and lock washers because we don't want to mess around. And then also the big washers are
Already in there.
Already in there, cool. Big washers are already in there. We got cut down some big flat fender washers, and we're about to go put around. So this is before. It didn't take that long to install the bottom plate and get everything screwed in. I used a below waterline Sikaflex all over the plate and the bolts that I put up through, and then we basically did the same thing in reverse, sticking a wrench through the holes that we'd made to secure the nylocks on, and then screwing the bolts in. We replaced all the hardware, let that to set, and then on the next sunny day went to start filling in the holes in the skeg. We finally have some sunny weather, and we're gonna take these things.
Some precision cutting right here.
To fill in the bulk of the holes, we're using this really cool product called PVC foam board. It has a lot of different applications, but one of them is in these sorts of fiberglassing situations. So what we did was we cut little pieces that kind of fit nicely into the holes that we'd made, and we mixed up an epoxy glue with colloidal silica, covered the whole rim of the holes in the skeg with it, covered the whole area of the PVC board in it, and we pushed them in a couple mils beyond flush, so that once that dried we could add another layer of epoxy glue over the top of that to totally seal it in. PVC board is not porous, it's very lightweight, and it seems like it would be, but it actually repels water, so it soaking up water isn't an issue, but it's still a good idea to just bury it all under a bunch of epoxy resin, because then you don't have to worry about it at all. That we're making, the colloidal silica epoxy glue, and then push them all the way in until they're flush with the edge.
Shall I mix it?
Yum on.
Yum.
And let that dry, and then tomorrow we'll sand it down and do the next level. Alright, Dan's pre-cut these chunks to be the right size, and we have our epoxy mix, so I'm just going to feed it in. The gloopier the better, the more of this stuff the merrier, and we're just going to sand everything off so it can kind of get everywhere. It's just
real glooper on in there, you know,
yeah.
Maximum gloop.
Just getting this all over this guy.
Step 2.
This is the little one.
Goop the bits and shove them in holes.
This is gonna go in here.
Maybe, yeah, there you go, nice.
Make that nice and flush. This bigger one, we're just gonna roll it in this stuff.
Oh, good roll.
It's like a,
yeah.
Oh, it's already getting hot. Cake icing.
Okay, so sanded back to see what we have to work with. Took off the big chunks with the hardcore sander, and then moved on with the little hand sander to smooth it out and get around the corners.
The next thing we're doing is fairing down the area around these repairs so that we can get some nice fiberglass sheets on them. So what you want to do is you're basically creating like a bowl shape around the repair that you did, and then building it up with slowly bigger and bigger circles of fiberglass so that it has a really nice hold on it. We're figuring this out as we go. This is the repair that we did yesterday, really nicely glooped in actually. And you can see these where the holes are, this is where we put it in, and it's starting to get a little bit convex, but we're still gonna go deeper. We're just kind of starting and stopping because we're figuring this out. I'm trying to get away to show how deep they go. They're about 6 mil in, like my dad recommended, each one. And now we're just gonna sand back around here a bit, just because the top layer of fiberglass will just put a nice sheet over this. So we're just gonna get the paint back so the fiberglass will stick to it. All right, we're in the epoxying things on phase now. So I've got slowly bigger bits of these. This is so hard to work with because it just frays on the edges. What you do with epoxy is you wet the boat, then you wet the epoxy, then you paint over the epoxy again, and this is the best way to make sure there's no air holes in it. So we're just getting slowly bigger on each one. It's really windy, so it's hard to keep all the pieces lined up. So we've got the Sharpie side and the paint scraper side, and then we're just getting bigger with each one to fill in those holes and slowly make it what it should be. First one's on, can't even see it. All right, so still a little bit of a divot, but not too bad. Nothing that we can't fill with epoxy glue. And you can see where the holes were filled, the dark bits. So that is the skeg.
Okay.
Yeah. Slowly getting Gecko back together. The last big thing that needs to happen is getting the wind vane back on.
Well, and the blacking.
And
which is what we came in here for. Painting
the bottom, yeah. She's all gray now. Actually, gray bottom paint would be really cool to have.
So we filled the epoxy holes on the rudder, just like that, and did that on both sides. So now just to reinstall it. That's on. Just going to go in here with the drill out these holes again. You can see you've got one there. Drill those 3 out until they're big enough to take the new screws.
After that fiberglass repair dried, we did a bit of fairing over the very slight indents and then just primed it, threw the bottom paint on, and everything was good to go. Put the wind vane back on, boat went back in the water. Happy, happy, joy, joy. Check out the next episode to see more of what went on in the boatyard. We ended up having to fair the whole bottom again, which took us days and days and days and days. And I continued working on troubleshooting the engine. We did some provision stuff. There's just a lot. It was a big haul out. It ended up being over 2 weeks of being out on the hard. I didn't know I got so posh all of a sudden because there was nothing posh about it, darling. So anyway, thanks for watching this episode. Thank you to my patrons who support me and make this trip possible. If you'd like to become a patron, my Patreon is patreon.com/windhippie. And for one-time donations, if you want to help with some of those boatyard expenses, I have a PayPal, paypal.me/windhippie, and merchandise, all in the links below. And also, I am linking the forum where I found step-to-step instructions on how to use PVC foam board, in case I didn't do a good enough job in the video. If you want to read that, it looks like some pretty solid advice on there. So yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, Tish, for helping me remember when to make another edit and getting these videos up on YouTube. I don't always have good internet, so I upload my edits to Dropbox and then she just plops them onto the tube. And thank you guys for your comments. I love reading them and I love all the love. And that's all for now. Patrons, I'll see you next week with a snack, and YouTube people, I'll see you in 2 weeks.